but back then we looked so much alike, and it was a lot, to be honest. It was slightly oppressive, like the amount that people would be, because if you tell them no, they get annoyed with you. Oh, come on, Craig. Come on, what are you talking about? Of course you're Craig David. Like, they're grabbing you up and stuff. And so, hey, listen, there worse burdens than looking like a British pop star. It was my cross to carry. All right, fine.
Hi, I'm Bex from NME, and today I'm joined by OT Fagbenle for the latest in our In Conversation series. OT, welcome.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. And how are you doing? Where are you talking to us from?
I'm in Toronto right now. I shoot a TV series called The Handmaid's Tale, and so we shoot that out here in TO. I just arrived, just got out 2 weeks of quarantine, so I'm officially free from today.
How was the 2 weeks quarantine?
Actually, you know what? I got myself a place like in the countryside by a lake for the 2 weeks of quarantine. So it felt like I was just in a rural community, not really seeing anyone for a couple of weeks. It was pretty good, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So today we're talking to you about your new sitcom, Maxxx. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, how do you sum it up in your own words?
Well, I guess it's about a boy band member who was really big, like in the early 2000s, but like a combination of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and ego torpedoed his life. And we meet him 20 years later, and he's just doing PAs at dirty clubs, and he finds out his ex-girlfriend, Jordan Dunn, is getting engaged, and so he decides he's going to become famous again to win her back, because that's the best way to get love. To become famous.
And you wrote and directed the show as well as starring in it. Obviously, we're used to just seeing you in front of the camera in shows like The Handmaid's Tale. How was that experience different?
Oh, I mean, it's a lot of hats to wear, to be honest. But I mean, I guess that the main thing I tried to do is work with people much more talented than me to try and pull it off. So, you know, I had like Nick Collette, who was another director, who did loads of directing, and my brother Luti, who was a exec producer on it, who's an extraordinary, and the cast like are so funny. Like there's Chris Maloney in it, and Pippa Bennett Warner, and just a load of young talent who just. Well, I do a lot of improv, and so along with my own writing, they bring a lot because we improvise quite a bit. You know, Helen Monks, yeah, really great cast.
What parts of it were improvised?
Oh, we improvised throughout. Like, I mean, I guess my kind of process is we'll do the script, and then I'll be like, you know, I don't know, I'll just start making some stuff up on camera, and then we were just careful to cast actors who were up for that, who were naturally funny, who would come up with stuff, and so they know their characters so well that they would. So I can't even. It's hard to really pick out the written from the improvised because it was all kind of one.
The cast is so funny.
Yeah.
What's your funniest or most memorable moment from filming together?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how to pick one out. I mean, I do have a scene with Christopher Maloney, who. Like, if you don't know Chris, like, he's this big musty American guy. And in the scene, he wants me to have relations with his wife. He wants a cuckold situation, a threesome nonetheless, MMF, old school. And so that was just it's a very awkward thing, you know, to film. I mean, you know, trying to make love with someone's wife, you know, and they, you know, and it was just very funny and awkward in real life as well, because we had these three adults. And also I was directing that scene. And so it was like I was running around in my underwear behind the camera. All right, we need to change that. Okay, running back. Okay, now I'm trying to make out with your wife. That was a pretty funny day.
Is that something you want to do more of, like behind the camera?
Oh, but yeah. Yeah, you know, I write a fair amount, and so I'm developing some other projects now, and along with my brother, you know, Luti Media is his company, and they made some of the biggest music videos of all time, like, you know, One Direction, Kanye, and all that kind of stuff. So we have a great working relationship. There are a couple of things we've got in the pipeline. So yeah, I'm really interested in the idea of making content, but also, you know, like, people, and when I say people, I mean brown people, we're very underrepresented behind the camera. You know, it's like we talk about representation a lot these days, and I think in particular when it comes to directors, writers, producers of content, there are both a lack of opportunities and a lack of support that goes on. And so I'm also like conscious that I want to make sure that some of our stories are represented and told as well.
That's awesome. I really wanted to ask you about, obviously, Maxx and the situation he finds himself in are so outrageous and hilarious. I would love to know how much of your own experiences in show business have gone into inspiring what we see in the show.
Oh, I mean, basically all of it to some extent. I mean, if not my personal experience, the experiences of people I know, you know, I've had a couple of like crazy times. I remember in episode 2, we go to this weird industry party, and I remember a while back, I went to a friend's house, and it was just like this weird Hollywood Hills party where everyone was like, there were people doing drugs over there, people having sex over there. I was like, oh my God, this is intense, you know. And I just kind of wanted a place where I could put some of these weird, you know, things I've seen and stories people have told me on screen.
Can you tell us one of them particular like stories you've heard or something you've
No, I can't. No. No, you know what? Like, I kind of feel like the place where I can actually tell those stories is on screen. So, like, all of those stories, go watch Maxxx, Channel 4 in England, Hulu in the States. And that's where, and I think for me, although the show is, like, funny and a little absurdist and stuff, I think that's one of the reasons why people connect to the show, because there's, like, a truthful heart to it in a way, both hopefully in the tragedy of the character, but also in the stories that are told, as outrageous as they are. They do feel, to at least to me, plausible on some level. And so it's a kind of like behind the scenes look of the music industry, the entertainment industry.
So Maxxx himself is like a sort of disgraced ex-boy band member. Were there any musicians in particular that were an influence on him?
Yeah, I mean, look, like we all grew up with certain boy bands that who was your favorite boy band?
I was more into like pop punk. I guess they are.
You were too cool for boy
things
bands.
like Green Day and stuff. They're who I had on my walls.
What's a boy band? So I don't know. When I was growing up, there were a bunch of them. But I tell you something funny. After I started writing Match, I'd already written the first draft of the whole series. I watched this documentary, When the Screaming Stops. Have you watched it? The Bros documentary.
Yes, I love it.
Genius. And that for me, almost like retrospective inspiration. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. This, you know, because you kind of care for the guys, but they're also just, I don't know, so boy band mentality, you know. So yeah.
I particularly liked like the Craig David references.
Right.
Like when you Google your name, the Google autocomplete comes up with looks like Craig David. Have you been mistaken in real life before?
Never. I don't know what people are talking about. No, you know what? I used to get it a lot, especially, I mean, I still get it occasionally now, but especially when he first came out, we even look more like, you know, he's kind of got a lot more muscly since then. I've been avoiding the gym. So we've kind of gone on two separate branches of the evolutionary tree. But back then we looked so much alike, and it was a lot, to be honest. It was slightly oppressive, like the amount that people would be, because if you tell them no, they get annoyed with you. Oh, come on, Craig. Come on. What are you talking about? Of course you're Craig David. Like they're grabbing you up and stuff. And so, hey, listen, there worse burdens than looking like a British pop star. It was my cross to carry. All right, fine.
In the first episode, there's a wall of posters of Maxxx.
Right.
One poster that looks like the iconic Craig David.
Oh, you saw that? That was our little what do they call it? Easter egg. That's funny. Yeah.
Maybe I'm overthinking this. So Craig David also exists in Maxx's universe because someone mistakes him for him.
Right.
But then, if he's posing as him in the picture as well, what do you think? What do you imagine Maxxx and Craig David's relationship to each other is in the Maxxx universe?
This is like, you've taken it meta. I love
friends?
it.
Do you think they're rivals? Do you think
Maxxx
they get mistaken for each other?
Well, there was a moment where
I'm interested in this crossover.
I actually wrote a scene where, which now we never filmed it because we went in a different direction in the episode and we didn't even approach Craig. There was a scene which I wrote where me and Craig get into like a fight, Max and Craig get into a fight, and eventually we kind of we fight and all our clothes get ripped off, and then we knock over some mud and some mud gets on us, and then we're just wrestling in the mud. Never got shot for various legal reasons. So I imagine there's a fair amount of animosity. Maybe Craig, yeah. But me personally, I love him. He seems like such a sweet guy, and he really kind of revolutionized British garage music and stuff like that. So enough respect to the Craig.
That kind of brings me on to something else I wanted to ask you about, which is about celebrity cameos in this world, because Jordan Dunn plays herself in it.
Right.
Well, first of all, how did that come about?
That is the magic of Luti Media and my good friend Stefano Moses, who's a producer who'd made some music videos with Jordan, and he just talked us up, sent her some videos, and she's so down. She's a really great actress, and she's got a great sense of humor. So because we shot some videos which are on YouTube now, of Maxxx, and she loved that. And so we just went and met her and pitched her, and I didn't know if she'd be any good. So when I first wrote the series, I made sure she had very little to say. And then we did our first rehearsals, and she was so good that I remember coming out and going to the producer and being like, we've got a problem. And they were like, what? And I was like, she's so good, we're going to have to write more of her in. We're going to have to change the scripts around how freaking talented she is. So yeah, that's how it came about.
And can we expect more celebrity cameos as the series goes on?
Yeah, well, how much have you watched?
I've seen the 3 episodes.
Yes. I'm trying to think who Kevin from the Backstreet Boys turns up in episode 5. That's a great cameo. I bumped into Kevin at some event. I didn't know Kevin like I know him. I don't know him from fucking Adam, you know. Sorry. And I just went up to him because I was just like a chancer. I tell you who else we've got is Jamie Oliver makes an appearance. Very funny. Both of those cameos involve violence, so look out for that.
Were they up for the violence? Did they embrace it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Kevin, I met him and then we chatted, and eventually, long story short, he was like, he invited me back to his house to film. So we went back to, he's got this amazing house in Malibu or whatever, in California. And I was like, right, I want to get into an argument with you, and then I want you to take this bottle, it's like a fake bottle, and smash me over the head with it. And he's like a proper actor. So he was like, yeah, but what's my motivation? And I was like, well, what was the most annoying thing people would say to you when you were, before? And they were like, I don't know. Anyway, I pushed him. Eventually he was like, this pissed me off when people used to say NSYNC were better than us. And I was like, they are no way better than you, bro. And so in the scene, I was like, NSYNC are better than you. And then he gets the bottle and smashes it around the face.
I bet he loved doing that as well.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's a really good actor. I've been trying to tell him, because after we filmed it, I kept on messaging him saying, listen, you've got to do some more acting. I know you make all the millions from boy banding, but listen, take a step down, join us.
I bet he's always wanted to just retaliate with a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. Therapy, I'll charge it, $200.
Did you have any dream cameos that almost made it into the series?
Oh, yeah, we tried to get a bunch of people. I remember we tried to get Madonna. We couldn't get Madonna. I think we might have reached out to Kanye. Yeah, I mean, we tried, but most of the celebrities actually just came about. Oh, I tell you what. Oh no, my mind's gone now. Kelly Clarkson did a cameo. We filmed a cameo with Kelly, and we couldn't find a perfect place to put it. So we've still got it, and we're like, we'll probably use it for a second season. But we did a cameo with Kelly Clarkson, yeah.
Awesome. And that's something else I wanted to ask you about as a second season. I mean, these characters are so much fun. And Are you up for a second season? Will we get to see more of them?
Yeah, yeah, possibly. Basically, it kind of depends on Channel 4. It depends on if there's a clamoring for it. But yeah, I think there's more Maxxx to be told.
What would you like to explore in a future series?
I would like to explore Jamaica as a location, and let's film out there for a few weeks. That's kind of one of my dreams. I don't know. I think there's so much. I mean, I'd love to see Maxxx run for president. I mean, I've been spending a lot of time in the States at the moment. I'm watching the absolute circus that's going on. It's so crazy that, yeah, I don't know. I love, like, the satirical nature of Maxxx, kind of like making, like, kind of looking at what it is, why in our culture right now, the idea of being famous is so important to so many people. They like how many followers you have, how many likes you have is a kind of like a representation of one's self-worth. And in a way, that's what the show is fundamentally about for me, along with a couple of other things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'd want to find something else in society, which I'd like us to like just look at in a humorous way, I guess.
What is your opinion on that? Those kind of themes of celebrity and your value being measured in that kind of popularity?
I mean, there's so many metrics which you can kind of evaluate the progress of the world, and so many of them are positive. Homicide, violent crime is all down, child mortality down, education, literacy up, amount of people starving in the world down. But there are some others which aren't so good, and those include mental health, obviously the environment, but mental health and the deterioration of that in especially quote unquote developed countries is really significant. And I think social media is a large part of that. They've, like, the smartest minds in the world right now, the ones from Harvard and Yale and Oxford, whatever, instead of being driven into, I don't know, nuclear fission or astronomy or whatever, they're being driven into how to make children addicted to this app. And we've got very little chance against such a, like, advanced technology, which in many ways kind of knows ourselves and our impulses better than we know ourselves. And so, yeah, I think I recently have just kind of been taking long Instagram breaks because I was finding it wasn't making me happier.
I also wanted to ask you about the show coming out on Channel 4 because it was delayed to be broadcast because of COVID. Could you tell us a bit about why that was, and were you ever worried that it just wasn't going to come out?
I mean, I guess that did cross my mind, but Channel 4 are really behind the show. They really love the show. So I knew that it would come out, but also at the time, we were facing potentially the end of the world. I felt like there were bigger things going on in a way. And so, as much as that was a kind of like, oh, what's going to happen with the show? At the time, I was just more concerned with like, how do I keep my mum safe?
Something else I really loved about the show was like the kind of cringe comedy of the character. There's so many moments that are like so similar to like a David Brent or Alan Partridge.
Right.
Could you talk us through some of your comedy influences?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like, huge compliment to be compared to those two greats. I mean, one of the things that I kind of studied is because Britain has this, we have this kind of long history of kind of like, cringe comedy. And it's also a kind of, it's almost like a class comedy. Like, it's a comedy about people who feel like they should be in a higher station than they are. So that goes back to Blackadder. This guy has these ambitions, but he keeps on coming up to the limits of his station. And then with Fawlty Towers, again, that was like the next incarnation of this idea of this guy who had like illusions of grandeur and kept on coming up to face. And then again with Partridge and David Brent. So that for me is the lineage which I kind of dreamt that, okay, well, maybe Maxxx can be the next installment of that tradition in British comedy.
Something else he has in common with David Brent is like the music. Am I right in thinking you wrote Maxx's music in the show?
Yeah, I did. But with all things, I really love to collaborate, and so I collaborated with a number of amazing, talented musicians, from Rockwell, who's my brother, to Marcus Smart, Theon Cross. There were some great Vince, who was our music composer. Like I had a lot of support through that, because I'm a very mediocre musician.
Well, it must be. Well, how do you strike that balance? Because on the one hand, you've got to weigh up, it's a comedy show and he's like a ridiculous character, but then you also have to write a song that is like good enough that it's not just ridiculous.
Right.
It still has to be like a good song.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, because it was a big debate, because we could also have gone very funny with the songs, and so there was a decision about what is the tone of the show and what we're trying to say, and ultimately, and then there's just what people's tastes are. And so for the main song in it was a song that I had written, and I don't know what to say really, apart from like, I tried my best. Mama, tried my best. And we wanted it to be something that was heartfelt to him, and due to the limitations of my musical ability, it was never going to be like, I don't know. I love the song, to be honest. I really like the main song. So.
I'm sorry, but I think you're being a bit overly humble with the musical ability stuff, because you're musical outside of Maxxx, the show anyway, right? Like, you've written TV shows, you've co-written a song with Tiger. I mean,
right.
You have a musical background, right? I
really, really appreciate that. I was wondering how long you'd have to fish to get that compliment out of you. But I really do think, no, I do have some musical ability, but it's a lot of right time, right place, as I find a lot of life is.
Do you have any more musical projects on the horizon?
I do, actually. I can't say too much about it, but I'm developing another musical TV show. It's early in development, but yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, actually. At some point, we'll chat again, and I'll tell you more about it when things have further developed.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. And speaking of the song with Tiger, are there any other musicians that you might have like secretly worked with that we might not know about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, even the Tiger thing, my friend Stefano Moses, again, the same person who got me Jordan Dunn, he was singing on this track with Tiger, and he had to write some verses, and we'd done songwriting before together, and he called me up and asked me if I could help him out with the lyrics. So that's what I mean, right time, right place. So no, there are no other secret musicians. But listen, I'm available. People, call me, call my agent. I'm here for it.
And I read that you learned actual instruments to play for this show.
Yeah.
Does that mean, could we see a live Maxxx tour in the future?
No. That I won't do. But just because I don't think anyone should be inflicted with that. But I did have to learn. I wrote this show, and then halfway through I was like, my character plays a bunch of instruments I don't actually play. So on top of like having to think about directing and writing and acting, producing, I was also like doing drum lessons at like 10 p.m. at night before going to film at 6 a.m. So that was stupid. But I really enjoyed it though. Especially the guitar.
You could have written him to like play something that's easier to learn, like
the what's that, kazoo? What is that one? Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, kazoo, triangle.
Right.
So as well as Maxxx, another thing we're so excited to see you in soon is obviously Black Widow. What was it like to join the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I mean, surreal, I would say, is one of the things, and very often almost overwhelming, kind of like when we did Comic-Con, and even just turning up to set and seeing all these huge cranes and cameras, and my first day like rehearsing with Scarlett, and just trying to be normal, like be normal, act normal, don't be weirded out. It was a little bit of work, but once we got started, it was fun. There's some really great people to work with, to be honest.
How did Scarlett welcome you to it? Did she give you any advice on what it's like to be in that world?
Nah, she's so chill. She's just so chill. I remember our very first day of rehearsals together, and she was just like, she just came in with all her charisma and humor. She's a real kind of like joyful being, like she's comes with a lot of joy and playfulness and stuff. She was very, very welcoming, and yeah.
What are you most excited about for when that comes out?
I mean, it's a really great kind of like take on the Marvel universe, and the relationship between those sisters is so good. I think people are going to really get off on that.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
and then
that's good.
I was also going to ask you about The Handmaid's Tale, and like if that was you're already working on that. Obviously you are.
Yeah.
What can we expect from the next season of that?
It's the most explosive season since the first season. It's absolutely. I actually wrote Bruce Miller, our main writer, like last week, just saying like these scripts are unbelievable. I don't think this is a season to miss, basically.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. You've got so much that I can't wait to see. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Are you going to watch the rest of Maxxx?
Oh, 100%. I can't wait.
In episode 5, it gets very weird, so stick with it.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us, Soti.
Yeah, great chatting with you.
Wait to see the rest of the series and for Black Widow.
All right, well, take care.